Welcome to the family office. Planning for the people who matter most.
Is when you're I think maybe when you're growing or you're transitioning or you're in a period of growth somewhere or you're growing somewhere, and then all of a sudden you get a juxtapose where the old world comes back in to sneak a peek at you for a little bit, and you're like, wait a minute, and this could happen in so many different. I don't know if I'm tracking with you or not. I'm just kind of giving you my perspective since you made the comment. And in that, maybe in your perspective, it's like your life and your habits have changed a certain way with maybe your spouse and the way kids are no longer in the house. And then all of a sudden it congeals back, and you're going, wait a minute, I think I'm tracking with you. Anyways, you're like, what?
I'm definitely used to routines, man, because I would say, once I read that book, The Power of Habit and Atomic Habits, everything I do, I try to maximize habit stacking. So I have to think less. So from what I wear to my daily routine, I do exactly the same thing almost every day. And so because of that, the way I look at it is the more I habit stack, the less I have to think, and the more that frees up my brain for coming up with creative ideas, doing something innovative, being more strategic, because now I can focus my energy on those things that are value added versus everyday habits that are just routines that don't add any value to my life. So. But that's also value because those things I have to do. I have to shower. I have to work out. I have to, all of the things that I need to take care of routine wise. I have to do those things. I don't want to think about what I'm going to wear on the day of. I want to get that done the day before. So when I wake up, I just snap right into it, and then I get started with my day. So, I've really been very intentional about regimenting my day to the greatest extent possible.
Well, unfortunately, most men don't ever think about it or admit it, but men in general, by and large, 80, 90% are habitual. And they like routines and they like habit. Like they like that. They're predictable. Men are very predictable. Most men, 90, 80% of men are very predictable. And that's what brings them a lot of peace. I think it's when men try to fight that and they don't want to accept that. It's like, that's when they get conflict, but you're absolutely right. It answers the almost paradoxical question of when you sit there and you go, I don't understand how I'm able to do all the stuff that I do today versus like 10 years thinking about going, oh my God, how am I going to do it? And yes, you're getting better at chunking and you're getting better at being able to, I guess it's almost like lifting weights in a sense where, two 25-pound plates and a bench press used to be difficult, but now because you do reps and you're working out for it, 2 is your difficult number, and 2 on each side. Same respects to your mental fitness when you start to grow as a man or as a human being. I mean, it's not just captive to one gender. Obviously, women can do the same exact. Women do the same exact thing, but men are more habitual than women by far. Eventually, what ends up happening, I think, is that things that you start habit stacking and you start preparing more, and all of a sudden, things are systemized for you and become habitual. If you set up routines, you start to realize how efficient you can become. Women will argue that men can't multitask, and women will argue that they can multitask. Now, scientifically, you can't multitask. Whether you're a woman or not, there's no such thing. But for some reason, we can all admit women, for some reason, can be multifunctional. For some reason,
they can do lots of fractional tasks at the same time much more effectively than men.
Even though scientifically it shouldn't happen, it does. But what I will say is that men diminish the fact that that's their strength, is they can Pareto principle onto one task at a time and become so hyper focused and obsessed with it. And when you do that time and time again, it's been proven thousands of years, that's where success comes from. When a man can put his signal on something, it's going to happen. If the problem for men is Samson syndrome. It's very easy for men to get distracted and go zzz, zzz, zzz. And that's the role, I think, of a good spouse or a good life partner, a good a woman knows how to femininely balance that a man down back into the ability to become softer again, and then to not explode into a billion pieces. And that's why a lot of men today are exploding into billions of pieces, because they don't have a house or can't afford a house to go into. And I know we talked about this, and they can't get a woman that's going to be like in what their brain is. And we talked a little bit about this. I love it. These guys are doing coffee dates now with women. And I think it's great, because I think men are absolutely getting sick and tired of a lot of the stuff that happens. And by the way, men, you are not alone either in this. There's a lot of work that men have to do, but there's a lot of work that I think both sides need to do, and they need to realize it. But by and large, if whatever makes you happy, do it. Because if it doesn't make you happy and you're not honest with yourself, then you're going to be miserable no matter who you are, no matter what hierarchy or gender role you fit into. But if you don't own it 100% and aren't confident with it, you're just going to be miserable. But do what makes you happy. But still, by and large, 80% of people desire to be married, have a steady relationship, live in a safe neighborhood, raise some children, have a house, domicile, have a dog, grow some stuff, take care of some stuff, have equity in something, and feel like they're giving back, and go to church. And that's really, by and large, is still the recipe to solve majority of people's wants and needs. And I think people just aren't honest today, and they don't want to admit that, Len, and that's why there's a lot of people that are depressed today or confused. I don't know what it is.
I mean, you hear about I think it's the red pill community. We've touched on that in the past, and men having difficulties finding women. And you have all of these situations in which people have reasons to be unhappy. And I just think there's so many more factors to contend with when you think about the idea of getting an education and what does that look like, the idea of economic advancement and what does it take for that to happen, and then what does that mean with regard to the opposite sex and attracting that that right person. I was listening to I don't know where I heard it, but it said that of all of the intimate relationships you have in your life, your spouse is the only one you can choose. So choose wisely. So if you think about it, that's really profound. It's so simple. We don't choose our parents. We don't choose our children, but we can choose our spouse. And so putting ourselves in a position to make sure we attract the right person is important as well. So going back to the whole habit stacking idea is I want to drill down so specifically on the things that are less important in my life so I can have the mental capacity to find time and space to continue to advance myself, so that, and if men who are single apply those same principles, then they put themselves in a better position to have more choices, because the higher you go up the economic ladder, the more opportunities you get. That's just the fact. And so, if you happen to be a good looking person and you have the money and the career or the business that goes with it, now, you can pick anybody you want. And so unfortunately, there's so many people that don't necessarily have the looks and don't necessarily also have the work ethic to put themselves in a position to have the economic prosperity, where now they're just feeling stuck, because now, you're competing not only against reality, you're competing against this perceived reality, which is so fake that people put themselves out there on social media and they think that's the reality. And that what begins to happen is that women compare men to these idealistic aspects of who men are, and men do the same with women. And the unfortunate reality is that we both, men and women, need to have a better sense and have better sense of self to know what your range is. Like for me, I knew when I was looking for a wife, I was probably going to find her in college. And I even did the math when I was in high school. I said, okay, I'm going to a college that has 10,000 students. Of those 10,000 students, there's probably 800 women that fit the criteria that I'm looking for. The look, the values and all of those. Okay. So out of the 800, there's probably, 1 to 200 that, are a 7 or above. And there's probably out of there 20 to 30 that I'm going to be compatible with. I'm going to find one. I know I bring enough to the table. And that's what happened with me, and next year we'll be married 30 years. So, but a lot of times people don't have that degree of clarity and understanding. I knew that by the time I met my wife and we decided to get married, that I wanted to see the best in her and the worst in her. And I wanted her to see that in me. And so once we decided, okay, I've spent enough time where all of the fake niceties are out of the door. You're yourself around each other, and I show her my bad side and my good side and vice versa. We can live with that. We're good. And that was my recipe. And it's worked out so far.
Let me ask you it this way, just frame it this way as I'm listening to you. And by the way, that's truly the work of an academic at heart. Like no man or woman could calculate that scientifically the way you just described that without being an academic at heart. I'm sorry, my brain melted down at a nuclear level 5 times as you told me that, because I'm like going, I have no patience to do that type of academic work. To me, I'm like going, I already thought of 3 different entrepreneurial concepts already, and I'm going, and that's the good thing about it, right? That's the good thing about it as you if you're open to the idea and you're honest with yourself and you're like, I'm not going to be uncomfortable being comfortable. You're like, yeah, I realize that while I might admire that and might go, dang, I would love to be like that. I'll never be like that, because if I tried to be like that, it would be boring for me.
We are who we are, man.
I just have to constantly be thinking. I thought of an idea, Len. I got to tell you about it offline. But I think it's genius. I think I've struck gold, and I'm like, I can't wait to tell someone about it. And I'm like, no one here is impressed. By the way, nobody here. It's a travesty. These kids are looking at me like I'm crazy. I'm going to tell you this thing, Len, and you're going to blow. Your eyeballs are going to blow out of your head. I'm telling you. But at any rate, I don't want to digress too far.
Looking forward to it.
I can't wait to tell you. Just remember, if I forget, please, I wonder if you could do me a favor and remind me.
I'm going to write it down to remind myself. Yeah.
I love it. So as you're sitting here and I'm talking about this, gentlemen, I want to put it back on you because we were talking about earlier. And then we'll kind of go into the first thing at hand here, what's going on, because I think it'll tie in. But I think you got to maybe look at it this way. I mean, most men, they want a baddie, right? They just do. I mean, let's be honest, men. You want a baddie. You want a bat. Bamboo earrings, a pair, take 2. You know what I'm talking about, right, Len? That's what most men are trying to look for, right? And the reality is that when I was in the business of recruiting heavily and recruiting a lot of people, always in the back of my mind, it was always the thought of going, this is a long, drawn out process. And you got to really, really, really step up your game. And as you start to recruit people, you start to realize that the process becomes way more ardent and I'm saying that right? Argent or ardent, right? Becomes
arduous? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, it becomes more difficult? And strenuous arduous. And agonist, right? Mm-hmm. Arduous, right? The moment you start to realize that you're not asking yourself the right question. And the right question always is, why would anybody want to join my team? Why would anybody want to work with me? Why do people why would people want to follow me? Why would people want to be my client? Why? And start asking the question. And then all of a sudden your brain starts to go into this, as a man anyways, as for me, in my perspective, in business, it starts to go into this in anything. It doesn't even have to be business. It can be relationships. It starts to go, holy crap. What can I do to get better and increase my value? Right? And because you brought that up earlier, value. What can I do to increase my value? And since we're specifically talking about a man getting a baddie, right? Or getting a good girl or a good wife or a good girlfriend, whatever it is that you're desiring, because that's such a huge thing today for a lot of men. Why would they want to date you? Because men are so obsessed right now. What do you bring to the table? And they should be asking that question, obviously. But then in the back of my mind, as a hunter, as a performer, as a producer, as a builder, as a look, man, if you don't get up in the morning and you don't have this right? Regardless if you're an aggressive man or a non-aggressive man. I'm not an aggressive male, but I'm aggressive. I don't present aggression in the normal.
You have testosterone, so therefore,
if you don't get up in the morning,
aggression,
and have this insatiable hunger to just hunt, kill, just build, attack, or get after something, then something's wrong with you. And you need to really actually think about like what you're building for yourself, or what you think or how you value yourself. Because every day you can get up, and for men who are transitioning in life and getting older, you got to go through changes, right? What are you doing to, number one, be a man of value to get the baddie you want, and then keep the baddie? Because both you and I have baddies. We do. We acknowledge that. But we also understand every single day that we get up and we go, all right, cool. What are we doing to drive the goalpost? What are we doing to get better? What are we doing to improve? Because men, it is your job to stay ahead of the curve.
I agree.
And women, if you want everything you want, then you'll find a man like that. And then not only will you find a man like that, you will go, okay, what can I do to make this dude even better? And what can I do to drive this man? And what can I do to give this man my loyalty? And what can I do to support this man, ride or die? That's it. And when you get that type of relationship, it's game over. But men, we got to step our game up too. And stop making excuses and lead, and just lead. That's it. And that's really, I think, would solve a lot of the problems. And I think that I'm very impressed though with Gen Alphas and these young kids, because my kids in that age group, and we've talked about this, they have access to a lot of information, but a lot of the stuff they look at, they go, no way, and they have a heart for nostalgia. They have a heart for nostalgia, which means I'm not worried about the right types of traditions, not dogma style traditions, the right type of traditions changing, because traditions have to change as the world gets older. I read this interesting thing, and I'll throw it back over to you because I have a question for you going into this next topic, unless you want to elaborate on that as a throwback to you. But it showed the evolution of the English language from all the way down to like medieval English to Middle English to King James English to today's English, and how English has evolved so crazily. And the reason why, we were saying, why did it change so much? And there's like 4 different key reasons on why language changes. And English changes. It's fascinating why English has changed so dramatically. And it has a lot to do with, obviously use, the way the world is, the way things are pronounced, dialects. So it's just fascinating. But if English had not evolved the way it had, we wouldn't be able to operate the world the way we do. And that goes for most languages. For example, I didn't know this. I'm not an academic like you, Len. But I didn't realize that why English doesn't have a formal a gender definition like say Spanish or German, because it evolved out of that. And I've never even realized that. I never knew that.
And so as we wrap up this year and as we wrap up this show, we just want you to know that we appreciate every single one of you out there. And we hope that by watching our show, that you're a little bit smarter now than you were a few minutes ago. And I hope that you understand the value of always acquiring new information and processing that information critically, and then sharing that. So with that, share, subscribe, comment. We definitely want to hear from you. And we hope that all is phenomenal closing out this year and starting out Q1 next year. So Chris, Matt, every time I have a blast with you, I always learn just by listening to you. Even though I don't always agree with you, I always get value from what you say. So it's always great. It's always a pleasure.
Likewise. Merry Christmas, Len. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Take care.
Conversation has given you clarity on your next steps. Please share this episode with someone who's walking the same path. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss future episodes. And remember, planning ahead isn't just prudent, it's an act of care. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Family Office.